Good day, everybody, and welcome to today's episode on buying property in Malaysia, especially in Johor Bahru. And today's episode, I'm going to do a quick review of eight landed projects in Iskandar Putri zone. Right, these eight projects are probably the most popular projects that, if you inquire about buying landed property in Iskandar Putri, these should regularly appear in your results list. And I'm also doing this video because recently we did some viewings for some landed projects, and I realized a lot of buyers may not be fairly familiar with the nuances or the differences between these popular projects. So I do this video to help give you some idea, right? Why these projects are popular, the pros and cons, and some pricing expectation for you, and have to help you narrow down, right, so that we can go through this process a bit faster, narrow down what kind of properties that you want to buy if you're looking for landed property in Iskandar Putri. Now, Iskandar Putri as a zone is nearer to Second Link, right? If you come in from the Tuas Second Link, basically when you come out from Tuas, this area is basically called Iskandar Putri, which is the west part of Johor Bahru. Of course, if you anywhere of these eight projects, if you go to Iskandar Putri, if you go to Tuas Second Link, it's fairly fast. I think anywhere from a 5 to 15-minute drive, you will get to Tuas Second Link quite easily. So actually buying landed here is something that is of course much easier to come from Singapore if you come through via Tuas, right? The other reason why landed property in Tuas or in Iskandar Putri is quite popular is because of the presence of the international schools. Most of the international schools, like Marlborough College, Raffles American School, Invictus, these are all in the area in Iskandar Putri. So most of the Koreans, the Angmo, the Westerners who are here, right, or people who focus on natural education, they tend to stay in Iskandar Putri for the schools, right? And of course, the other reason why people like to stay in Iskandar Putri is that it's generally less dense, right? So the environment here is more open. There are less people. You don't see the high human density like in JB City Center, right? And this area also, there are more landed property to choose from. Also because this is a new city, right? If you say JB City Center is the old city, right? Iskandar Putri is the new JB, new part of JB, right? And if you look at it on a historical basis, I think most parts of Iskandar Putri are not older than 20 years, right? So in the history of JB, Iskandar Putri is not more than 20 years old, so it's fairly young from that perspective, right? So these are the main reasons why you want to buy landed here, right? And why Iskandar Putri is the place to live if these are the priorities that you have in mind. Bear in mind that because Iskandar Putri is in the west, you are not near the MRT. You are talking about minimum 30 minutes drive from Iskandar Putri to JB City Center. So in event when the MRT is ready 3 years from now, you still need minimum half an hour to get from the MRT to this location, minimum half an hour. And on bad traffic days, expect that to be 45 minutes or longer, right, during peak periods of bad traffic, right? But minimum half an hour, right, to drive, and drive, yeah, not talking about bus or whatever, right? Drive to get from town, right, JB town to here. But yeah, I mean, we still have people who ask about landed property and also living in Iskandar Putri in general because of the reasons I mentioned earlier. So without further ado, let me start with the 8 projects that I'm going to talk about today. The first one, of course, is the perennial old-time favorite, which is Horizon Hills. Now, Horizon Hills is probably one of the oldest, if not the oldest, township developments in Iskandar Putri, developed by Gamuda Land, which is a very big listed developer in Malaysia, right? Horizon Hills is very popular for the golf course, right? So a golf course, very large golf course, runs throughout the whole township, and you can buy properties in Horizon Hills that are facing the golf course, right? Not all are facing the golf course, of course, but some are. So you can choose, if you can buy properties which are facing the golf course, and you can have everything here, right? Anything from terrace houses to cluster to semi-detached to bungalows. I think there's a wide range of choices when it comes to property in Horizon Hills. So I think the earliest Horizon Hills phase was probably 2006, 2005, 2006. So they are one of the oldest projects, and you can get very standard sized houses here. So for Singaporeans, I think the interesting bit is you can probably buy a terrace or a corner terrace or end lot terrace for maybe just over $1 million ringgit, right? If you're trying to buy the lowest entry terrace, Horizon Hills is one of the choices that you can get. House age anywhere from up to 10-15 years age maximum, right? Houses here, right? Depending on the phase that you buy, because Horizon Hill have many phases, right? So the plus point of Horizon Hills is of course the golf course, right? And there is a clubhouse where you can buy a separate club membership if you want to enjoy the facilities at the clubhouse. And of course, Horizon Hills has one advantage, is that it's fairly near to the Bukit Indah township, right? So if you go to Bukit Indah quite often, the Aeon Mall there and all those shop houses in Bukit Indah, Horizon Hills is very nearby, very accessible. I mean, from the driving distance, it's probably the closest. Maybe 5-10 minutes drive, you'll get to Aeon quite quickly, right? And the good thing about Horizon Hills is it's a very established township, right? There has been many transactions over the years. Lots of people live there. I have a house in Horizon Hills as well, if you want to know, right? And the layouts are very traditional and popular layouts that you get with all the space that you get from a landed property. So Horizon Hills is good in that sense. And yeah, many locals, many Johor people stay in Horizon Hills as well. One reason you may not like Horizon Hills is because, I mean, nothing too fancy. I mean, it's very standard stuff, all right, in Horizon Hills. If you're looking for something with an X factor, Horizon Hills, other than the golf course, right, probably doesn't offer much in that sense. The houses look very traditional JB house, Malaysian house design, and nothing too impressive in that sense, right? So Horizon Hills may not give you a bit of wow factor if you're looking for that emotional thing to buy the house, right? But in terms of like I said, establishedness of the project, right, is there, right? You get individual title property and gated guarded, right? And I think a fairly good community for all the people who live in Horizon Hills. Next up is East Ledang. Now, East Ledang is developed by UM Sunrise, also one of the biggest property developers in Malaysia. So East Ledang is also a gated guarded township. The interesting thing about East Ledang is that it's gated, but you and your neighbors are open concept. That means your own house have no gate one. Maybe this photo here will show you what I mean, right? Your own house have no gate one. That means you and your neighbor just walk across, there is no gate. So that shows you how secure they are in terms of the security of the property. And I think security here is pretty tight in East Ledang. And one thing good about East Ledang is, if you they again have many layouts from terraces to semi-Ds to bungalows, right? I think the bungalows are very popular. East Ledang bungalows are very popular at 3 over million ringgit. You can get a very nice bungalow. Maybe that's a topic for another day. But if you want to buy bungalows in East Ledang, I highly recommend it as a very good value buy. The other thing about East Ledang terrace houses, that you will find that a lot of them have an air well. I'm not sure if you know what I mean by air well. When you go in the house, there is another air well in the middle that provides a lot of natural lighting, right? And air, air circulation for your property. So East Ledang has this. And again, if you are a Singaporean foreigner trying to buy a terrace house for just over R1 million, East Ledang is probably one of the places that you can get it. In terms of the age, East Ledang is very similar to Horizon Hills. Horizon Hills and East Ledang are probably the first two landed townships in Iskandar Putri. And in that sense, they are one of the older ones and more established ones with many transactions and high resident population, both Malaysians and Singaporeans and other nationalities living in East Ledang as well. So in that sense, East Ledang and Horizon Hills, they are both very established in a sense in having the township. So East Ledang is somewhere you will go if you want to buy a bit more Western style terrace house and if you like the airwell concept, which I think a lot of people like it. I personally, I think it's a great idea. And if you want a large terraces for over R1 million, you can buy 28 feet kind of terraces in 20 feet width, right, terraces East Ledang, which I think is pretty large for R1 million property. And yeah, so East Ledang is the plus point in that sense. Negative is probably, if you don't like open concept landed, maybe you don't like that you and your neighbor so easily walk to each other, right? Then maybe you don't like East Ledang because of the open concept. But like I said, resident quality in East Ledang is very high. Your neighbors are all quality people, right? And a lot of foreigners here as well. So yeah, that would be the reason why you would want to buy or consider East Ledang. Number 3 is Eco Botanic. Now, Eco Botanic is the hot product of the market right now. I think in 2023, we have seen Eco Botanic prices move up quite a fair bit, because Eco Botanic is by renowned developer EcoWorld. They're also a listed company, and I think they have a distinct design, the black and white design. Some people tell me it's not black and white, but I mean it's sort of black and white design that a lot of people enjoy and they like. with the very nice exteriors, right? The houses are, and Eco Botanic, Eco World projects, right? Their landscaping is very nice. They take care of the landscaping very well, right? And so in that sense, Eco World is very popular project, not only for Singaporean but also for Malaysians as well. And I think today you cannot get an Eco Botanic unit for under 1.2 million. I think in the resale market, I think minimum 1.2 lah. All I think most units are 1.3 and above, right? For the cluster houses in Eco Botanic. Now, Eco Botanic has one major advantage, which I think is at least in the phase one, right? You can have walking distance from phase one to the commercial area. Now, the Eco Botanic commercial area is very, very hot today. I think you can find a lot of nice artisan cafes, a lot of food, restaurants, bars, a lot of high-end shops, right? The tenant quality is very high. You have Starbucks and other high-end tenants, right? It's not just shop house, but the shop house are very high quality tenants, and I think people enjoy that, right? If you go to JB to enjoy this kind of lifestyle, Eco Botanic, the landed houses are walking distance to here, so you're buying this plus point. So I think in that sense, Eco Botanic is has this major advantage, right? And it's also strata landed, right? So there's pros and cons of strata landed. If you're not sure, do watch my other videos. What are the pros and cons of strata landed? If anything, Eco Botanic has only one negative in my opinion, which is the layouts, right? Eco Botanic house, I always have to say, outside look nice, inside you go in, right? The house is not that big, it's a bit small. Interior, if you compare the interiors of a typical Eco Botanic house, they are normally smaller than a price equivalent, same price equivalent of another project. Yeah, so I mean for the cluster houses, especially in phase one, right, they are a bit small on the inside. And generally speaking, like I said, Eco Botanic houses are all smaller than you think they are, right? But you don't mind to pay a bit more, can get bigger layouts, right? But yeah, that's what I mean by the layouts. But Eco Botanic, again, very popular again because of the design and the strata keeps the whole estate look very nice and very well maintained. So people love it for the effect, and I think hot product in 2023 today. Next is Estuary Gardens. Now, Estuary Gardens is a landed project that is probably not very well known, but it's actually off a Putri Harbour. It actually has a Putri Harbour address, right? Among all the projects that I'm reviewing today, Estuary Gardens probably has the unique distinction of having a Putri Harbour address, now, which is quite a coveted address. And normally, Putri Harbour is associated with condos, but Estuary Gardens is probably one of two landed properties that have Putri Harbour address. Now, again, similar to East Ledang, they're also developed by the same developer, Sunrise. So there's some DNA copy, including the fact that they're open concept. That means you and your neighbor, no gate, right? Between your houses, there's no gate, right? Like this photo that I'm showing you. And then and you have very large terraces. So even in Estuary Gardens, your terrace houses are quite big, right? So for the price that you're paying, you get quite a lot of space, a bit modern design, newer than East Ledang, right? But probably a little bit smaller than East Ledang. So there's a trade-off there. While East Ledang, you get generally larger sizes. In Estuary Gardens, you may get a little bit smaller, but the houses are newer, by the way. So it all depends on what you prefer. Also, some people like to buy East Ledang old house to rebuild and really renovate to what they want. Well, in Estuary Gardens, you probably not do that because the house is still quite fairly new. But Estuary Gardens, like I said, one thing good is very near to the Marlborough College and Raffles American School, very near Putri Harbour. So it has that plus points. And if you see from my photos here, I think you can agree with me that the house. The area landscape is also quite nice. Just opposite Estuary Gardens is also the sports center, which is run by Sunrise, which is also a plus point if you're someone that likes to have easy access to the badminton halls and the swimming pools, which are in this sports center just across the road from your development. And I think you can also buy in Estuary Gardens. Right now, they only have terrace houses. For around R1 million plus. So if you're looking to buy something with the minimum entry for landed property for foreigners, a Singaporean, Estuary Gardens is also on your list for over just around R1 million plus minus. Next is Sunway Iskandar, and when we say Sunway Iskandar, I'm referring to Emerald Residences. Now, Emerald Residences is the predominantly a terrace house project with some semi-Ds and a bit of cluster, right? The houses are also open concept, similar to Estuary Gardens, similar to East Ledang, where you and your neighbor have no gate. House design very unique. You have a bit of a very modern-ish house design. I think quite funky looking. Some houses have airwell also, which is a very interesting design. To me, the problem with Sunway Iskandar is that it's a leasehold, because all of Sunway Iskandar right now is a 129-year leasehold. But Sunway Iskandar, you have this thing about being part of the Sunway Township, so you're quite near to Sunway big box malls. You're very near Sunway Citrine, right? There's a very beautiful Emerald Lake developed by Sunway Iskandar, which you can easily access from this development. So if you ask me, in that sense, if you are a Singaporean, one thing you can also try to buy a Sunway Iskandar Emerald Residences Terrace for maybe 800,000-900,000 ringgit. You can try. I'm not sure whether there's still any at this price range nowadays, but you can probably try 800,000-900,000 ringgit, which is probably even lower entry than the 1 million that typically associated to foreigners. But at least this is the trade-off, right? To buy at this price, you just trade off the freehold for a leasehold 1 to 9 years. So if you don't mind a leasehold 1 to 9 years, I think Sunway, and you like the Sunway Iskandar environment, right? I think Emerald Residences is a very interesting option for you, right? If you don't want a terrace house that's too big, because sometimes terrace house too big also problem with maintaining. You want something functional, nice design. I think Emerald Residences is something to consider for you. Next one is Aira Medini. Now, Aira Medini is just opposite of Sunway Iskandar, and it's developed by, again, a renowned luxury developer, E&O. In Malaysia, E&O is very famous for luxury developments. So, Aira Medini, you have a very interesting terrace house. There's only terrace houses here. They have a very interesting layout where it's a 27 by 65 feet layout, right? Which means the house is wider than usual, right, at 27 feet. So when and they have also a unique L-shaped design. That means all, despite being terrace houses, all of them have a unique like a garden design. So you have a semi-D feel despite being a cluster house. Okay, so I'm not sure whether you understand all that. I have one layout plan here just to give you an example of what I mean. So in that sense, they sacrifice a bedroom downstairs. So Aira Medini, the terraces only have 3 bedrooms rather than the typical 4 bedrooms for terrace house. But you can buy a terrace here for around 900,000 ringgit as well, similar to Sunway. Again, this is also because of Medini. This is a 129-year this whole project. But Aira Medini has a certain design aesthetic that E&O is famous for. If you've been to the E&O hotel in Penang, right, you get what I mean, a bit English colonial style feel. Aira Medini is not quite that, but you can see certain luxury elements in the way the whole development is built. So if you like something like that, Aira Medini is also interesting choice. If you don't mind, again, smaller terrace house, right, with again, very bright natural lighting because of the design, and you don't mind this whole 1 to 9 years, you want a small terrace house, very very nice design, I think Aira Medini is also something to look out for if you want to be in this zone. And of course, being in Aira location, you can also enjoy all of the Sunway Iskandar amenities, which is just in front of you, although you're not a Sunway customer, if you know what I mean. Number 7 is Leure Farm. Now, Leure Farm, together with Horizon Hills and East Ledang, are probably one of the oldest landed developments in Iskandar Putri. Now, Leure Farm is famous for basically 2 things. Number 1 is the Water Bayou Village, right, which is a series of, if you see the photo here, a series of very small landed houses which have a unique water feature at the back. I think they're quite unique. I think whole of JB, you will not really see something like this. Is quite unique, right? The houses are quite old, not very big, but if you want that lifestyle, you can buy this house. Unfortunately, I don't think they are foreigner eligible, but at that price range. But they are very, very unique houses to take a look at. And the other one is, of course, Leure Farm is very famous for all the giant bungalows, right? Now, Leure Farm is the only one of the few places in Iskandar Putri where they sell land for you to build your own house. So you buy the land, you build your own house. So as a result, you can see a lot of super bungalows, right? Like in Singapore, we call them good class bungalows in Leure Farm. So in Leure Farm, a lot of these GCB or large bungalows sizes here. Now, if you are into that, right, you want to buy a bungalow that or build a bungalow, buy the land to build a bungalow that you can never do in Singapore or much other places in Malaysia, Leure Farm is the place for you. Freehold, very in touch with nature, super low density area, right? If you think it's a very quiet place, right, where you can get in touch with nature, all the Ang Moh love it, right? If you got 2 dogs, 3 cats, and a parakeet, that kind of situation, right? Then Leure Farm is a place for you to be to put all your pets and animals, right? You want to rear a horse, right? They have actually a horse stable here as well in Leure Farm. This is the place for you, right? To be in touch with nature, very green, and all that. I think a lot of Singaporeans, if you're too urbanized, right, you cannot accept Leisure Farm, right? But if you are the type that want to be in touch with nature, Leisure Farm is definitely, and you want large, grand spaces, this is the place for you. Last but not least is Emerald Bay. Now, Emerald Bay is like what Sentosa Cove is to JB. Now, in Sentosa Cove, you know, you have all those man-made water lanes where you can park your yacht in front of the house. Now, we have this also in Emerald Bay. Now, you see Emerald Bay from the photos I'm putting here. You can also buy a landed property where in front of a landed property there is a yacht berth. Yeah, so as you can expect, properties in Emerald Bay are not cheap, right? These the can buy terraces, semi-Ds, and also bungalows here. Some prices at least here for your reference. They are probably the most expensive landed property in the entire of JB, in my opinion, at least on the per square foot basis. Also, they're the most expensive. House sizes are also not very big actually for the price that you pay. You are basically paying for the design, for the address, because this is also a Putri Harbour address location. You're paying for the water views, and it's really beautiful. I mean, first timers who've been to Emerald Bay all come back, wow, and they're very cheap compared to Singapore Sentosa Cove equivalent, and of course they're freehold, right? And again, this area also very low density. Your neighbors are like football players and superstars and CEOs and celebrities. You know, these are the kind of people that live in Emerald Bay. So if you want to buy Emerald Bay, right, this is the things to consider, right? Of course, you must have a higher budget than is typical for a landed property in JB. But if you can afford the Emerald Bay and you want that kind of lifestyle, definitely this is something for you to consider. So I hope my short review on those 8 projects help you craft a little bit of decision making for you, right? So if you ask me, it depends on what type of buyer you are. Let me try and summarize it in a bit, right? So if your budget is to buy, if your objective is to buy a landed property in JB and you just want to spend roughly over R1,000,000 to buy a freehold landed property in JB, right? Then in Iskandar Putri, then of course Horizon Hills, East Ledang, Estuary Gardens, right? These 3 are your best bets, right? You can probably get for just over R1,000,000 a landed property in these 3 locations: a terrace house, right, and freehold, right? If you don't want to spend so much and you are only willing to do 800,000-900,000 and you're willing to sacrifice the freehold for leasehold, then you should consider Aira Medini or Sunway Iskandar. Or if you're someone who really likes the Aira Medini aesthetic or the Sunway Iskandar aesthetic, the design, the township, then you can buy, of course, and you don't mind, you know, leasehold, then you can also buy Sunway Iskandar and Aira Medini because they are really nice. They are, if you are someone who's very into design and you just want to buy for own use to enjoy, I do suggest to look at these 2 as well because their houses are also very nice. Now, if you don't mind to pay a little bit more for landed property up to 1.3, 1.5 million, up to 2 million ringgit or more, in fact, I do really suggest Eco Botanic, right? Because Eco Botanic has a very nice like I said, cluster semi-D, which is in a very happening area right now. Eco Botanic is also the place to go. And of course, if you have a higher budget all the way up to 3 million, you know, even want to buy semi-D or bungalows, I think I really like Easterdam bungalows, right? For semi-Ds, I think, yeah, Horizon Hills also has very nice semi-Ds for 1 over plus, you know, 1 plus to 2 million plus semi-Ds. I think also very nice. All depends what you're looking for, but I mean the traditional looking places for semi-Ds bungalows are normally Horizon Hills and East Ledang, right? And finally, and of course, if you enjoy the great big greens and the giant bungalows, right, we are worth like 10 million ringgit or more, then you go to, or you want to build your own home, you go to Leisure Farm, or you enjoy the greens, you got lots of pets, Leisure Farm is the place to be. And finally, if you really want the Sentosa Cove kind of buy, right, and you have a good budget, you should look at Emerald Bay. So I hope this helped clarify a little bit the differences between 8 projects. I'm not going to talk about those townships that have not been completed yet. I know some of you may raise, hey, how about this, how about that? But those are not ready, so I don't want to comment or speculate too much about projects that are still under development, right? Maybe once they're completed, we can get a better feel of how they compare to the rest, because otherwise everything's just referring to a brochure and nothing much to say experience living-wise. Okay, so thank you very much. I hope this video was useful, especially if you're buying landed property in Iskandar Putri. I'll probably do one sometime in the future for properties, for landed properties in the east, right? Like that covers Austin, Eco Summer, all that. But that will be for another day. See how this video turns out first, and I'll put some photos here to as much as to help you understand, right? So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed my content today, do like, share, subscribe. to your subscribers. Feel free to reach out to me at my Singapore number 81261626 if there's any property that you would like to view. We do arrange some trips, or we can try to arrange viewings for you as well, including for landed property, which I am the agent, and we do market as well these landed properties for you to buy. So thank you very much. Hope to see you guys again. Bye bye.